Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this final podcast of our series on, the fashion month that happened in September. And this one has to do with, the grand finale of all these fashion weeks, which is that of Paris Fashion Week for Spring-Summer 2023. And so for, the little bit of culture, historical aspect.
Context.
Yes. So even as we said that the first fashion week was held in New York, that was inspired from the French Salon shows that were taking place long before that. So these fashion parades in Paris of couture shows that have been established long before any actual fashion week or, fast fashion shows. And those were organized as early as the 1700s. So we can see how France really pioneered fashion. In 1973 was this first official fashion week that was recognized under the Fédération Française de la Couture. And the event had a form of a fundraiser at the Versailles Palace, interestingly enough, which is obviously very, very different than how Fashion Week functions today. And so for this podcast, we're going to continue along the line as we did with our three other podcasts, which is we're going to analyze a good show, bad or disappointing or controversial, however you want to call it, show, and then just two other shows. And so
I just wanted to, about what you just said earlier. I think it's very interesting how when you talked about the first Paris Fashion Week and the Battle of Versailles, the fashion show, I think it was very interesting how it kind of showed the tensions between the New York Fashion Week and the Paris Fashion Week. And then you kind of see like even the way it was organized and the fact that you had 5 French designers, the biggest French designers, and then you have 5 kind of unknown American designers, which were people such as Oscar de la Renta, which they're going to grow up to be not unknown for sure. And I think it shows how interestingly they were kind of rivaling about the whole fashion
I mean, not necessarily rivaling, but just France has always tried to put forward this classic historical aspect of fashion
and very grand.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas as we said, New York and London, but I mean London especially, but New York as well was always like new designers, new looks, fresh. So I mean, Oscar de la Renta is not necessarily fresh now, but well-established name. Yeah. And so to begin with, let's start with the undeniably good show of Paris Fashion Week, which is Loewe. Do you want to begin, maybe? What did you think about it?
Well, I found this kind of excerpt from G.W. Anderson, who is the main figure of Loewe now. And he said that, he had this quote where he said, pushing things towards something that could be irrational. And I think that kind of like summarizes everything that went there. And you saw the contrast between very cartoon-looking pieces, which kind of characterize G.W. Anderson, and then you see some very kind of classic designs, beautiful designs, and this contrast for me was very tastefully done.
Oh, it was just quintessentially French in a sense, while still being something completely new
and fresh.
Yes.
So it was a very nice dichotomy between the French classic and like undeniable
the silhouettes,
beauty,
the colors,
exactly.
kind of.
And then you have these like very classic silhouettes, and then you have the contorted silhouettes that kind of came into the show, and they looked so good together, and you kind of saw the way he's mixing these two concepts. I mean,
first of all, this mixing of concepts I think can be seen simply from the set, which is just white floors, extraordinarily shiny, and then I don't remember the name of this flower in English, but this huge. I don't remember it. But anyway, this huge flower that appears in the design of the clothes as well in the middle. So it's an exaggerated piece up against this, simple, the most classic minimalist thing you can have. And so, I guess to begin with, this was, I think, one of my favorite looks of the show. The
first one? The little dress?
Yeah, the baby doll dresses that are like... First of all, the pattern that works so well with the style of the dress, like how the stripes get thicker as the dress pans out, and then the combination with the red shoes, I don't know,
and the little pink on the bag, and even the little gray collar, which is so beautiful. I mean, and the natural makeup, which again I love, and the slicked back hair.
It gives all attention to the clothes, and the clothes are not necessarily, they're not screaming with the design or the colors, but it gives all attention to them. And here you can see like this baby doll dress, the silhouette is taken to the extreme. It's an itty bitty dress, but that doesn't seem so necessarily. It's not vulgar. Absolutely not.
Too out there. it's just like very subtly present but still striking when you look at the details, which details in this show, I gotta say, and knowing that you're a very like detail oriented person, I gotta say the shoes. Oh my god, like literally,
I'm telling you, these red shoes, this simplest, it's just leather, there's no intricateness to them, and yet they just work perfectly.
And then if you look at the other looks, you see, you know, heels that look like bars of soaps, nail polish, eggs. Did you see the eggshell ones?
I wanted to say, did you see the balloon heels?
Yeah.
I have a current obsession. I'm not gonna get them, of course.
Yeah.
But I have this current obsession with these. It's these black elongated shoes, and for a heel they have a red, almost deflated balloon, and they are just delicious, if I can say so.
I was very obsessed with the eggshells, with the cracked eggs, and it's metaphors of life, but beautiful.
Now, what about the second look?
I mean, I loved the flower everywhere.
Me too.
And I don't know, it's so like even the tiny straps that goes on her shoulder.
And it's just one.
So dainty.
And it's just one strap.
And so elegant. I can't even say. And having this exquisite, like subtle elegance, and then looking at, for example, like the next look that we're going to talk about, which is out of a video game. Exactly. It's just genius.
I agree.
Elegance. This was elegance for me.
But it's such a fresh elegance,
and
like
youthful,
you said. Yes.
And their faces as well. Like,
I was looking when you were talking about the detail at the hair, because this model has a widow's peak, and instead of trying to hide it, he accentuates it so beautifully with the hairstyle, and it just adds this like just this little touch of, you know, a hairstyle.
I agree.
It's just beautiful.
And again, even if we have some kind of surrealist notes and exaggerated, at the same time, the materials don't look cheap. And I know I always say this in every podcast. I'm like, oh, materials are cheap. But like here, you can honestly admire the way the clothes were done.
Because the secret, I guess, to making these simple looks the same way that YSL does and everything is to have a rich material, to the point where you look at just a simple white dress, and the difference between a simple Zara white dress and a simple Loewe white dress is that material, is that craftsmanship that goes along with it, not just the cut of the dress. So yeah, and now as a contrast, like we said, this third look that we chose, which is the same, you know, with the sleek back hair and everything, and it's just so comical, I must say. The shoes, everything, they're like just transparent shoes, silicone. Do you see?
I know it's genius. And the way that it's done, like even, you know, being so serious about doing something so comical, again shows the way these clothes are made. And for me, like this crazy cartoon looking look on this very like healthy looking, no makeup, barely there, I just woke up girl, I love it. I don't know.
I agree. I agree. And it's just so funny and comical and theatrical in a sense, and also compared to all those other outfits. But it works. It shows this kind of vision, and even in a sense, like the way we put the images, like you go from a kind of simple silhouette that doesn't have a lot of exaggeration to then the exaggerated flower to then just the whole outfit being super exaggerated. And it's in the sense the way the show was meant to be, you know, a mixture of these 3 stages, I guess, of exaggeration. But since we're talking about exaggeration, let's move on to what I would like to call the bad show of this podcast. Maybe Mara wouldn't. And that is Balmain. And just for context, Balmain is more of a new brand, because they, even though they are a French brand, they are not part of the haute couture brands. And haute couture is simply related to craftsmanship and French history of craftsmanship, and so certain brands don't participate in that. And so yeah, here we have Balmain. What did you think?
I mean, at first glance, there were some looks that I can totally agree with you that they were not it. And they didn't look like, you know, there's a fine line between trying to be, you know, ethical and trying to use upcycled clothing, and then for the materials to actually not look good on the person. So I can agree that there were some looks that weren't amazing. And I mean, I would say 1/3. I don't know how to put it there, but
I would say
there were
3/3
some that I was kind of impressed with in the terms of the design and seeing what Balmain did in the past, which of course differs a lot, but you still get those, like, you know, waist accentuating kind of designs. So for me, some of them were good, some of them were pretty bad. So for me, it's pretty hard to kind of like give an overall. So for me, it's the fact that it wasn't unitary that kind of
that's me. The thing. I don't care if it's not unitary as long as the looks are good. And even those looks that you could qualify as good, in my opinion, the bad thing about it is they were so old in terms of the vision they were putting forward. Like, to me, it screamed some like 2015 Coachella, which I do not want to see on the runway of Paris Fashion Week. And
come on, like the bamboo dress, like the
no,
I don't know.
And just first of all, if we're gonna talk about the bad stuff, the prints that were chosen were abominable.
I agree.
I mean, starting with this ancient painting kind of a print. I don't get it. It's Bershka-esque.
It's very Renaissance.
The leathers that were chosen and the way they were done, like in the second photo, the belt, I just I don't get it. And then if we talk about the third picture, black with flames and bright gold jewelry,
I totally like, if we judge the three looks that we have here, I can
this is
totally
the essence of the show, these three looks.
I don't agree.
The fact that there's a few drops, very few and far between.
No, but you see designs made of paper. You see designs made of banana, like literally banana, and they look good, and they have this very like flamboyant silhouette. I know it's disappointing to see like utterly disgusting patterns on the same runway, but I gotta give it to Olivier.
I can't, because before the show he had posted the revolution is approaching, and if this is the revolution, please do not approach. I can't. I don't like this. I mean, okay, I get it, I understand the idea behind it with the sustainability. And
I mean, at the same time, it wasn't even 100% sustainable. So, like, where is the revolution?
So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to do something.
I hate being devil's advocate here because I'm starting to agree with you. But I'm still going to defend. No, I'm still going to defend some pieces. I got to say.
I'm not saying don't defend the pieces. If there's some good pieces, sure. But for me, 3 pieces does not a collection make. 3 pieces does not a brand like Balmain make.
I know.
Not that I particularly like Balmain.
No, I don't either. Yeah, it wasn't a good show overall. I gotta give you that.
Thank you. Moving on. I got what I wanted. So next is YSL.
So here we see the notorious cape dresses.
Yeah, that we mentioned in the last podcast. However, we can analyze YSL all we want, and we're gonna say that it's very nice and it's very nice materials and cuts and everything. But what I want to ask, we had prepared this question, is YSL kind of going in the direction of Chanel, of they're basing their designs too much on the name and on just classic silhouettes,
their aesthetic,
and they're just basing their shows on it being in front of the Eiffel Tower, and are they really creating anything new, or do we like it because it's YSL?
I think there's no denying in the apparent laziness that we see. I don't even know what a brand at this point should need. A new head, a new direction.
Think
because
so.
Like, I don't know. I don't know why some of them seem stuck.
But the thing is, it's not as if YSL is necessarily stuck. I mean, they're very visible.
They are.
Like we said,
very
these cape dresses, they're somehow innovative because everybody is associating them, or at least everybody I talk to is associating them with YSL currently, and not all the other brands that have produced them after this fashion month. And every year they're very talked about. Their designs are very promoted. It's just, as beautiful as they are, as classic as they are, as rich in material as they are, I don't know what more I would want, but I would want more.
No, I think it's difficult because you take a brand and you compare it to the brands today and how they're holding up, and you say, okay, YSL is still there, it's still visible, it's still top tier, kind of, right? But then you look back at what they did and how they were at one point, and you're like, you don't see this anymore.
But you see, another thing about that is because, I am the first person to always be like, no, it was better before with every brand.
We're very nostalgic, both of us.
Yeah.
It's true.
But and I was watching these documentaries actually a few days ago, like about certain fashion editors and what they were doing before and blah blah, and my first instinct was to be like, oh my gosh, they don't do it like this nowadays. All the good old days that I wasn't even part of, but whatever. But I think we still have to put it into perspective, as tough as it is for both of us sometimes, that nowadays there's just such a boom of everything everywhere that it's much difficult to bring forward something new or innovative.
So you think
for
we're biased
brands
a little bit?
Oh no, I still think it was better before, but I think we can sometimes put it into perspective a bit.
No, definitely.
And it's obviously gonna be tougher, even for a brand like Versace, for instance. Like, of course, at first when it was just Gianni in the 90s, that it seemed so much more revolutionary than it does 20, 30 years on. Of course, it's easier then than it is now. But that doesn't mean we can't criticize.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of brands that are very out there.
Oh, but this is another story.
Why?
This is unjustifiable.
Yeah, we were, I think, actually...
It's Louis Vuitton, folks, by the way.
Yeah, it's Louis Vuitton. And actually, me and Mara were we at the Louvre, I think?
Yeah, we were in that weekend.
Yeah, and we were just strolling in Paris. And we saw
see this monster construction, and we're like, oh, what hideous fashion show is going to happen here? And lo and behold, the next day it was Louis Vuitton that happened there.
But that was not the most horrific thing about the
not
runway.
in the see the horrific background disappears when you look at the horrific designs. Maybe it was on purpose.
Exactly, they stole our attention from the background.
So what do you think about this exaggeration that happened at Louis Vuitton?
I looked at it one day, then I thought, okay, I'm gonna look at it tomorrow. I'm gonna let it simmer for a while, and it's nightmare giving for me, these little details that they when you hear about the concept of taking all those micro details and making them big and making very exaggerated silhouettes.
But I'm sorry to say, most times actually, I feel like that's just bullshit in order to cover up for designers not knowing what to do, so they create these monster zippers like in the first picture. And
just for me, it's nightmare giving. As I said,
it's horrible. I don't see. And if I may say so, Louis Vuitton, it's never really a brand in which I really give an interest, especially when it comes to clothes. It's a nice even there bag brand, nice-ish. I guess it depends on people's visions. Mara and I aren't the biggest fans. Sometimes shoes, I guess scarves. Yeah. And that's kind of where it stops for me and where my interest is. But to go from, because if you generally look at Louis Vuitton runways, it's not very revolutionary designs.
You know what to expect.
It's a lot of metallics, silver especially, and so I wasn't expecting this. That's why we're talking about it. It's just so bad. It's this bad that we're gonna talk about this.
For me, it's so bad that I don't even know how to explain to someone why it's bad, because for me it's so obvious. That zipper is staring right into my soul.
But look at the
size of
picture.
Her face. And the second is that a print?
It's a zipper and a belt print on a very ugly leather dress. Is it leather?
Why? Why? I just, kudos for you trying to be revolutionary, but I don't know. Sometimes it's better not to be brave. You heard it from me first. Sometimes it's better to just stop, rethink,
take a breath,
and just don't do it,
But the last picture, the boots in all of them are they're not ugly, but they're not fashion-y.
They're not ugly, but they don't fit the context, in my opinion, at all. No. Because we could think of a context where, for example, the boots in the second one would fit and they would look okay on a runway.
No, but the thing is, these boots, you can wear them with jeans, right? And so how does it work with the idea of you having this entire exaggeration? That's where the issue is for me. It's exaggerated, number one, in a bad way, and number two, not even fully. It's also not the contrast like Loewe did of really tiny things and really big things. It's just an awkward mix of awkward sizes on ugly designs.
It's very bad. I keep on, whenever I see these pictures, I keep on thinking, is there an explanation above my level of understanding as to why this was done?
No.
But I don't think so. Nothing comes to mind.
I mean, we're not some fashion gods, but aesthetically we can still say like, hey, this might not be nice. I think this is where it needs to stop. Like, it's not. I mean, we've managed to understand J.W. Anderson, right? We've managed to. I mean,
I like J.W.
No, me too, but that's what I'm saying. It's something that might not be everybody's taste, and yet if you really try to understand it and have the appropriate stance to it, then you're gonna get it. But this, I don't get it.
I don't think it deserves more airtime than it we already have given.
And so with this,
on this note,
this is the end, I guess, of our 4 podcasts related to Fashion Month. And so thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Mara.
Thank you, Mara.
And I guess see you for our future podcasts.
Stay tuned.